Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to listen to this call. There's a lot going on. I've had a little bit of difficulty trying to distill all of this, but I will do the best that I can today. I'm going to reverse the order of things today. I'm first going to discuss Trusts Unlimited's trust package and why we think it's an essential component for anybody that has dinar and, of course, some of these other currencies. I will be touching on the Vietnamese dong as well today. But there are instruments individuals can use to provide at least some level of privacy and asset protection. LLCs, sub-S corporations, limited family partnerships, even to some extent revocable trusts. But there is no instrument out there, nothing out there that can provide the privacy and asset protection afforded to you through the establishment of your package of irrevocable trusts, and particularly the Wyoming trust package established by our attorney, Robert Bly, for reasons that I will touch on in this call. I was going to go into a little bit of history about what's going on in this country and why we find ourselves where we are, but I think I'm going to dispense with that. I'm just going to fast forward to the current Trump administration. It's been an unusual couple of years. We had 4 years of Trump, then we had 4 years of Biden. Now Donald Trump is back, and his first 100 days were rather record-breaking. I'm just going to touch on a few things. The inflation rate is now down to 2.1%. Last month's annual growth rate hit 4.6%, meaning that the annual growth rate is more than twice the inflation rate. That's a very good sign. And since the Trump administration has been in office, we've received $96 billion in revenue through tariffs. Add to that, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and the next phase is going to be no tax on Social Security. Now, interestingly enough, Social Security was not initially taxed when it was established, but a senator introduced a bill a few decades back to tax Social Security. That senator was Joe Biden. So he's a kind of a bad penny that keeps popping up, but mercifully he's just about, out of the rearview mirror. Another interesting issue is that there's scuttlebutt out there that the governor of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, is going to be resigning. And that's kind of an interesting move as well. Evidently, the policies that he's advocating are diametrically opposed to the administration, and I think he's going to be bowing out. So we find ourselves in a pretty good situation economically. But for those of us that have currencies, the news is pretty good. I'm moving quickly through this information. I'm bottom lining it for you. I was going to get into a little bit of the Bretton Woods Conference of 1944 and how it's kind of indirectly affected what's going on right now, but I think I'm going to dispense with that. However, I will mention a couple of things. First, recently, the establishment of the BRICS nations. This is a series of nations that are trying to establish a global reserve currency to compete with the U.S. dollar. They are making progress there, although I think the Trump administration is kind of pushing back on that initiative. And the other issue is Basel compliance. Basel compliance is important because that's why we're going to be able to go to the bank and make a substantial windfall profit on the exchange of our currency. Basel compliance was something that was established in 1984. Prior to that, we operated on what was referred to as fiat currency, meaning that the currency of a given country was based solely on the full faith and credit of that country. But then, unfortunately, we had global hyperinflation in the 80s, and so it was determined that we needed to go back to another way. Rather than using simply fiat currencies, we needed to have those currencies backed, and that's what Basel compliance is. So the currency of a given nation is based on two things: the known natural resources of that nation and the ability of that nation to bring those resources to market. And, of course, this is why we are going to expect a windfall profit on the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar. As I've stated in calls in the past, it can be argued that per square mile, Iraq, in terms of natural resources, may be the richest nation in the world. It's situated right in the Tigris-Euphrates River Delta, where all of the natural resources have flowed over eons of time. But Iraq invaded Kuwait when Saddam Hussein was the president. As a punishment to the nation state of Iraq, their currency was put in a program rate and made virtually worthless. We subsequently purchased that currency for next to nothing, and now that currency will be reinstituting at a Basel IV compliant rate. If you've listened to our calls, I've said in the last maybe 6 to 9 months that the currency people that I personally work with told me they estimated that the dinar would rest at about $4.85. Now we hear this week that they believe that the actual number will be $4.81. So that means that you purchased 1 million Iraqi dinar for roughly, let's say, $1,000, and at $4.81 you'll be able to exchange it for $4.81 million. This is where we find ourselves. Now, as we speak, in the nation state of Iraq, Maliki and the pro-Shia Dawa party are in serious trouble. The Iraqi citizens are rejecting them, their pro-Iranian stance. Iran, of course, has become a pariah of the Middle East, and so very bad things could be happening if the mullahs of that particular nation state don't stop what they're doing. In Iraq, we also see the elimination of the parallel market, meaning there will no longer be an official rate and a street rate, but the elimination of a street rate and one official rate. We also see that the imminent release of the budget and Article 12.2c, which discloses the new exchange rate, should happen at any time. So, again, the only remaining concern, of course, as I mentioned, is Iran. And I think the Trump administration is the administration to deal with Iran. Certainly, the previous administration was rather hapless, both domestically and in terms of foreign policy, and everyone had a green light to just pretty much do whatever they wanted, and that's come to a screeching halt. And Iran is either going to come to its senses or forces will be brought to bear to compel them to cease and desist their intrusionist affairs into the Middle East. So things are looking very, very good. And personally, I will be surprised if we don't see a reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar within the next 60 days, because everything is moving forward. And again, we have the right administration here in the United States. We have the right individuals working collaboratively with the Sudani administration. Now, Sudani has been a little bit of a disappointment because he made certain promises that he was unable to keep. But those of us that have had dinar know that for the last 20 years, just about, it's been 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But I think with the re-election of the Trump administration, they're going to push this through. Remember, Trump's long-term objective is the elimination of the Federal Reserve in its entirety. And that's why he wants to utilize cryptocurrencies and certain currencies like the dinar and the dong as reserve currencies for the United States, and wants to eliminate the Federal Reserve. And, of course, the Federal Reserve charges interest on the money that creates out of whole cloth. And the way they collect is through the federal income tax. And, again, what's Trump doing? He's whittling away at the federal income tax. He's even hinting at going to a very low flat tax. Now, I don't know whether he can accomplish all of that in the second term, but he can certainly set a trajectory for something like that. It can be argued that J.D. Vance is a very competent vice president, and at least to date, I can't think of a Democrat that could run against him and beat him. So the trajectory has changed. We could finally see the end of the Federal Reserve and return to Article 1, Section 10, constitutional interest-free money for the citizens of the United States. But that's secondary from our perspective, which is the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar, which the best way I can put it is this is a race, and we're in the final turn here, heading for the finish line. And I think those of us that have had currencies for 5, 10, even longer are going to be in a very good position. Now, Trust got involved with these calls because we knew that you were in a very good position to do something that most individuals can't do. Many wealthy individuals have established trusts for the benefits they provide and to protect that wealth. But we're in an unusual situation because if you are aware that you are about to receive a substantial windfall, you can transfer that windfall to the trust and out of title before that windfall actually comes to fruition. So by establishing your trust, you're going to preserve your privacy and your anonymity, meaning that the trust is sealed. No one knows what's in that trust. You're the beneficiary of that trust, but you're not the owner of those assets. They're owned by the trust for your benefit. The trust is going to also allow you to avoid IRS scrutiny because the business activities are occurring within the trust. You're merely, again, the beneficiary of the fruits of the activities within that trust. The trust also, our trust at least, has something that no other trust that I've seen has, and the reason I know that's because we created it. We created as one of our subtrusts the gift subtrust. Many individuals that have currencies want to assist family and friends by gifting currencies to those individuals. But a lot of people have discussed the fact that they're somewhat hesitant to gift these individuals for any number of reasons, that they feel they're going to be unable to manage that money. Well, we created a gift subtrust which allows you to gift those pre-RV currencies to family and friends, avoid the federal gift tax, but still have control of the post-RV proceeds. So it's the best of both worlds. The trust will also allow you to avoid the cost and delay of probate, which in certain situations can be to actually take years, and avoid the federal estate tax. The federal estate tax is the tax that's ordinarily assessed for the transfer of your estate to heirs. But if assets pass through the trust, you will avoid the federal estate tax. The federal estate tax can be as much as 55% of your estate in excess of $12 million. So that's a huge windfall. This means that your estate will bypass the cost, delay, and exposure of probate. No one will know the size of your estate, who your heirs are, and how much they each stand to inherit. And your heirs will receive 100 cents on a dollar of that estate, absent the federal estate tax. Post-RV and pre-RV, there are benefits of the trust as well. The trust pre-RV will allow you to avoid something called the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act. Very simply, an individual purchases 10 million dinar for $10,000. transfers the currencies to the trust. Let's say conservatively they revalue for $1, so you now have $10 million in trust. Can you be personally sued for $10 million? No. Why? Because the currencies were only worth $10,000 when you transferred them out of title to the trust. Post-RV, there's a benefit I like to refer to as limited liability stop loss. So you purchase $10 million dinar for $10,000. You transfer the currencies to our trust. They subsequently revalue for $10 million. Now that you have $10 million in trust, you make some purchases of a larger primary residence, maybe a couple of rental properties for additional income, a couple of cars, and say a boat. But as you purchase these items, you place each of them in their own separate subtrust to be managed by the master trust, the initial trust you established pre-RV. So this means that if anything were to occur within your home, within one of the rental properties, if you were in a car accident or anything of that nature, only that asset would be involved in any potential litigation, because all of the other assets are in separate subtrusts, which under the law are separate entities or persons not involved in the litigation. So acquiring the wealth is one thing. Protecting that wealth is another thing. But once again, you're in a very advantageous situation because in anticipation of this wealth, you can transfer the currencies to the trust before they revalue and divest yourself of any potential liability in the future. This can only be accomplished again through the establishment of this package of trusts. It cannot be done with an LLC. It cannot be done with a sub-S corporation, limited family partnership, or any other individual trust. It can only be done with a package of irrevocable trust established pre-RV with the assignment of the currencies and cryptos to that trust pre-RV. So let's go ahead and go to a Q&A. I had a much longer call planned, but I see no reason to get into all of that information. I also have a lot of people that I need to call back, and we're getting close enough to this event that I want to make sure that everyone that wants to establish a trust has the opportunity to do so in order to take advantage of the benefits that I've just discussed here. So let's go to a Q&A here. And while I'm waiting for any potential questions, if the things we've discussed here are of interest, I would strongly suggest you contact us to get our initial no-obligation package. It does contain everything you need if you wish to proceed, but you're under no obligation to do so. You can review the package. Contact us if you have any questions. We'll be happy to assist you. And again, if you decide to proceed, everything you need is in the package. You can contact us either by email or by phone. Our email address is trusts with an S, unlimited LLC @gmail.com. That's trusts with an S, unlimited LLC @gmail.com. For our phone service, which is 307-274-4122. That's 307-274-4122. Contact us by email or phone. You should have your initial trust package within 72 hours, if not sooner. So let's go to our Q&A here. Our first caller is area code 785. That's 785. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jim. Hey, my question is about Basel. And it is my understanding there's Basel 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I thought at one point you said we were at like number 4. But the question is that it's my understanding that July 1st, banks are supposed to be under Basel III, and in accordance that the gold is supposed to be utilized as cash or something like that. I just wonder if you could explain that, if you heard that.
Okay.
What that might have to do with, everything coming together here.
Right. Okay, once again, Basel compliance is the global transition from fiat-based currencies to commodity-backed currencies. And it's a 5-phase process. In each phase, every respective nation state must back their currency with more tangible assets. We're currently at Basel IV. As I was also saying, hang on just one second. Someone keeps beeping my phone. I don't know what this is. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to get distracted there. We're currently at Basel IV. Of course, we have one more to go. The reason we made our money is because the Iraqi dinar was artificially placed in a program rate because of their invasion of Kuwait. So we were able to purchase the currency for next to nothing. But since Iraq is a very wealthy nation, once we kick into the Basel compliance, the currency is then worth what a Basel IV compliant rate would be. And I've gotten into detail about the actual wealth of the nation. So, that's how Basel compliance works, and that's why when we go to the bank, we're going to exchange it at a Basel IV or Basel V rate. Now, the issue with the banks is one I really cannot respond to. The banks, it's funny because take Iraq, for example. The banking system in Iraq is still rather chaotic, trying to transition to all of this, and there's been a lot of foot dragging going on. As an example, I can give you a nation like China or India are really technically not in compliance, and of course this is a problem that has to be dealt with. China continues to utilize slave labor to produce products at below market rates to then try to go into countries and undercut the domestic production of their products. That's why the Trump administration's got an aggressive tariff arrangement to stop all of that. But I really can't specifically answer the issue you have with regard to the banks. I apologize for that.
You know what I'm talking about, though. July 1st, as my understanding, American banks have to, I guess, acknowledge that gold is you can use gold for a payable.
Yeah. Oh. Yes. Correct. And several states like Texas, Texas, Oklahoma, a couple of states have already instituted that in their state banking system. But again, this is part of Basel compliance. The currencies have to be backed with commodities, and the banks, some of the actual banks are going to have possession of the tangible asset to convert. Remember, I don't know how old you are, but I remember as a kid, I used to be able to go in with my silver certificate and exchange the money for silver dollars. So I probably am going to go off on a tangent here. My sister and I used to take our wagon, go and get all of the bottles that we could collect, take them to the drugstore. We got 2 cents for every bottle, and we got as many silver dollars as many dollars as we could, and then we would go to the bank and exchange them for silver dollars. So, we're kind of heading back to those days.
I was just kind of hoping, since they're going to be forced to acknowledge gold at July 1st, and that is the beginning of a new quarter, maybe it's all tied in or something. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Well, if you look what's happened to the price of gold, I think that's already factored in.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
Certainly. Okay. Bye-bye now. Our next caller is area code 347. That's 347.
Yeah. Okay. Now I know the dinar market rate. I think it went up from 1450 to 1390. Is that a sign that the revaluation is going to occur soon?
Well, it's a sign that the Iraqi dinar is increasing in value, so everything's moving in that direction. And as I've said in the past, the one concern the Bank of International Settlements, the IMF, and other international agencies have is the raw speculation that's involved. So they're not going to give us a date and a rate. They're going to spring it on us. But the fact that everything is moving in that direction tells me that in the not-too-distant future, the Iraqi dinar is going to be back on the Forex. And whatever the rate is, if I had to hazard a guess, it's going to be maybe a slight premium over a dollar, maybe $1.05, $1.10, but it should just shoot to that 485 and higher. The Kuwaiti dinar went over $7 before it dropped back down to 340 something, and the wealth of Iraq literally dwarfs that of Kuwait. So, the Iraqi dinar could go up to double digits before it settles back down, but everyone seems to think the high fours, around $5, is where the Iraqi dinar should be.
Okay, but do you know how much longer this is going to take place? They've been dragging it out forever here.
I know. I say it all the time, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. The Trump administration is pushing very, very hard. And the fact that Iran is making noise means that Iran knows it's imminent, and Iran doesn't want it to happen. They look at Iraq as their little play toy, and they know that the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar will leave Iran in the dust. And, again, I think the Trump administration is the right administration to force Iraq to finish the monetary reform, and they're the right administration to tell Iran to stand down or else.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Bye-bye now. Our next caller is area code 954. That's 954. Go ahead.
Hi, Jim. How are you?
Okay. Who's this? Bossy?
Yes.
I recognize your voice.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Only few very limited questions. On the package, I pulled out the papers you suggested. And then, for example, if I want to give the house to my daughter, how do I do? Which trust or what do I do from that trust package?
Well, what you could do is you place the home in a sub-trust to protect it within the trust package. You then, if you want to give her the home, you can outright give it to her if you want, but there are tax implications to that. You can then allow her to live in that house and basically only be responsible for the upkeep of it, and then when you pass away, she can have it out. You give it to her outright.
All right. If she passes away, then will it automatically goes to the trustee?
Well, if she passes away, the home is in the sub-trust within your trust package, so it's under your control through the trust.
Okay. And that trust, if I will be passing away before everything happens, then the trustee will take care of it, no?
Well, one of the things that we'll be discussing when the dinar hits the Forex is, in addition to the trust, you want to also make sure that you have your wills and powers of attorneys and all of that done as well, and presumably that'll all conform with what you want done. What the trust does is manage and protect the asset for you as the primary beneficiary while you're living, and then the distribution of those assets will be done through the trust in conjunction with your wills, powers of attorney, and your and all of those documentations. Those are statutory documents, so you're going to need, whatever state you live in, you're going to want wills and powers of attorney that conform to the laws of your state.
Okay. That wills and trust, everything is in this package, no?
Well, everything's in the package pertaining to the trust, but you're going to need to contact an attorney in your state for your will and your powers of attorney.
Will and powers of attorney. That's in addition to this, I have to create that?
Yes. Well, all you're doing is basically confirming through those statutory documents what you're trying to accomplish through the trust. The trust manages your assets for you during your lifetime. The distribution of some of those assets can only be done post-mortem through wills and powers of attorney. So again, what you would do is you'd want to contact an estate planning attorney in your state, and you want them to see your trust so they understand what you're trying to do.
Okay. Last question.
Now, one of the supplemental documents is something called a pour-over will, which As a matter of fact, you know what? Let me write down your phone number here. Hold on one second.
Okay.
I'm writing it down. I'm going to give you a quick call when we get off of this call and get into this in just a little bit more detail. But at the end of the day, you're still going to probably want to speak to an estate planning attorney in your state, and we'll discuss that in a little bit more detail when I call you back later today, okay?
Okay, and my number is 954.
I got it. Oh, don't say it online. I've got it.
Yeah.
It's on the screen. I've got it. Okay?
Okay, great. And
right.
thank you. The crypto and the dinar, that I have to do something before this before the evaluation, no? Pre-evaluation?
Well, you have an assignment form for the pre-valued currencies. What you can do is you can take that assignment form, the second paragraph where you're assigning the pre-RV currencies, you can just change the language and create the same document for your cryptos.
Okay, what is that form called?
It's
from the
currency, the currency assignment form, which is one of the supplemental documents within your package.
Okay.
All right?
And the crypto also falls under that same, no?
Well, there's no crypto language there, but if you go to that document, and just amend the second paragraph to include cryptos, not your pre-valued currencies.
Okay. Thank you.
All right?
You. Bye. Thank you.
Okay, bossy. I'll be back in touch later today. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Okay, our next caller is area code 561. That's 561. Go ahead.
Hey, Jim. I have a question about taxes. I know, we have to pay taxes once it revalues. My confusion is, okay, as you mentioned, maybe it comes out at a rate of $1.50, but then it floats up to $3, back down to $2.50. How do we judge our tax rate?
Well, this is a little complicated. Theoretically, if you have not exchanged the currency at the end of a quarter, taxes would be due on the profit realized. What I think we should do is, what we believe is that you have to pay the ordinary income tax, and then, by the way, there's something in the background, a very loud sound. What is that?
Probably just my car here.
Oh, it's really
is that better?
Loud. That's much better. An argument can be made it should be cap gain, but if it's ordinary income, you're going to get crucified with penalties, late penalties. So you want to pay the ordinary income tax and then file for a refund based on certain sections of the code. I can't recall what they are off the top of my head. I used to know them. But the Section 98082 of the Internal Revenue Code says if the profit that you would realize from the exchange exceeds $200, you must pay the tax. So what they're saying is whatever the tax is, it's due based on the increase in value, not the point of exchange. And if it's due based on the increase in value, not the point of exchange, that strongly suggests an ordinary income tax.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Sure. Okay. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was our last caller for this afternoon. Again, thanks so much for taking the time to listen to this call. Our next call will be next Wednesday. Certainly, if something of a dramatic nature were to happen between now and then, we will try to get out an emergency email and schedule an emergency conference call. But failing that, we'll be back next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Again, if the things we've discussed are of interest to you, I strongly suggest you contact us to get our initial no-obligation package. It has a lot of important information for those of us that have dinar and some of these other currencies. You can contact us by email or trust. Our email address is trust with an S, unlimited LLC @gmail.com. And our phone service is 307-274-4122. Thanks so much for listening to the call. Have a great week, and we look forward to speaking with you again next week. Bye-bye now.